What's up, guys? Today we're going to be comparing the iPhone XS to the iPhone 11. So if you're in the market for a budget iPhone, these two phones actually have quite a bit of differences. Now, again, not massive differences, but they do have differences that I do want to talk about, the essential differences here. So we need to talk about the price. So both of these phones are pretty cheap. You can find the iPhone 11 cheapest $338. Both of these phones I got renewed, refurbished. And then the iPhone XS is $255, so that's also a pretty big price jump. Again, I know what you guys are saying, like that's not that big, but if you're buying used refurbished, you're on a budget, so every dollar counts. So $255, the cheapest, and then $338 would be the cheapest for the 11. So let's go ahead and get into it, and I guess we can talk about the design because the design does have a slight difference here. So I do think the 11 looks a little bit more modern, again with the camera angle, because honestly if you change the camera around on the 11 it looks exactly like the 13, the whole body style really. This just has a more smoother edges to it, which I personally like. They both have the smooth edges, which I prefer over the newer 13. The sharp edges, the more boxy shape. So I do like these smoother phones. They fit really well in the hand. There is a difference that you'll notice with the size of these phones, that the 11 is a little bit bigger in the hand as well too. So if you have smaller hands, the XS does feel slightly more comfortable because it's just smaller, it's a little bit more compact, but they both feel really good. It's not like the 11 is super massive phone at all. As far as weight, they both actually feel about the same weight as well too. The button layout is essentially in the same place as well too, so there's not too much going on that's different about the body. Now also, they're both glass and metal phones, right? And they're both IP68 dust and water resistant. Now you do have, like, on the XS a more glossy finish on the edges as opposed to the aluminum frame on here, so it really doesn't pick up any fingerprints, which is really nice. I think that's why Apple kind of went that way, because this just doesn't pick up any fingerprints at this point. But yeah, so as far as the body, this one's bigger, but honestly, like I said, in the hand they both feel pretty comfortable. Now let's go ahead and talk about the screens on both of these phones. So there is a difference here, and I think a pretty big difference. So the iPhone 11, it does have a 6.1 inch IPS LCD panel at 625 nits brightness, and then you also have 720p plus resolution, 326 for the PPI. The XS actually has the Super Retina OLED display. It also has the same brightness level, but it's a smaller 5.8 inch display, and then it is a 458 for the PPI, and then it has a 1080p plus resolution. So the display on the XS is actually better overall. It's OLED, it has a higher res and a higher PPI. So overall, text and icons do look sharper. If you're into image editing, I prefer to edit on a more color accurate OLED display than an IPS display. Some people say the IPS displays are a little bit easier on my eyes. It really comes down to the person. But as far as pure display quality, they're both really nice displays, don't get me wrong, and they both look really good. You can't really tell the difference in terms of resolution if you're at like a distance like this, but if I slowly like bring it up, I can kind of tell the difference. The 11 is just not as sharp with the icons as the XS. And like I said, you can play videos in 1080p on this one, and you'll actually be looking at it in 1080p, as opposed to this one will just be 720p. Now, as far as the display size, this does have a bigger display, the 11. So if you like watching videos, you want the bigger display, you would go with the iPhone 11. If you're somebody that wants a smaller phone, you want something that's more compact that you can reach easier, then the XS is going to be the better choice. So it just really comes down to those things. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about speed. So both of these phones running iOS 15. The iPhone 11 has the Apple A13 chip, 64 gigs of internal storage, and 4 gigs of RAM. The XS has the Apple A12 chip, and then also 64 gigs and 4 gigs of RAM. Essentially, both phones feel about the same, even though the iPhone 11 is going to be slightly faster in benchmark scores. In like app opening performance and just general performance, overall they both feel about the same in terms of speed. They are both pretty fast phones. I really don't get hiccups and stuff like that. It's not like the one phone is not really that much faster than the other phone if you want to just keep it real here, even though the 11 does win in benchmarks. They both feel really, really quick and fast to me. So as far as speed, you can go with either one and they're gonna feel pretty much on par with each other. So I do want to go ahead and show you guys the gaming performance on both of these phones. Let's go ahead and launch PUBG here. See which one gets into here first, so you guys can kind of see how speed looks on the heavier application. iPhone 11 in, and then the XS right behind it. So you guys can see there's really virtually no difference in speed, and graphic wise in video games they're about the same as well too. Now graphic wise, like I was telling you guys in PUBG, so whichever phone you choose, these are actually great gaming phones on a budget actually. So we can do HDR extreme all the way up to Ultra HD if we desire to. They both run super smooth. So I don't have an issue with performance on either of these phones. So if you do decide to get one of these phones, just know that you're getting a really good gaming experience on both of these devices here. So it does not matter. The only difference, like I said earlier, with these two phones as far as like the gaming experience is going to be the display size. Do you want to game on a bigger display or a smaller, more compact display on the XS? It really comes down to that. Alright, so I wanted to go ahead and see if we could spot a difference with the speakers on both of these devices. Let's turn it up max volume and see what we get here, starting with the 11. Yeah, both speakers pretty much sound identical, and they kind of have the same identical vibration motor in here as well too. So that's really good. They both have really loud speakers, really full bass on here, so I can't really spot a difference there. And as far as the other additional features, NFC is on here, Face ID is on both of these phones as well too. So they're pretty much tied in that regard, and they both also support wireless charging as well. All right, so next let's go ahead and talk about the cameras. So I'll show you guys these side-by-side stills, but I want to go ahead and explain something because I think this is pretty important. So the iPhone 11 has the dual camera setup, 12 megapixel standard, and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide. It shoots in 4K 24, 30, 60, and then has a 12 megapixel selfie cam that also shoots in 4K 24, 30, 60. The ultra wide obviously is going to take wider shots like this, so basically think of it as zooming out. So if you find yourself in a lot of situations where you need to zoom out of shots or stuff like that, then you definitely gonna want the iPhone 11 here. So the XS has a very similar camera setup as well, 12 megapixel standard, but this has a 12 megapixel telephoto, so it's doing the opposite. Instead of zooming out, it's doing 2x in. So this is for taking zoom shots. So if you think that you're going to take more zoom shots, or let's say you're at a sporting event, you need to zoom in, this is not going to degrade the quality because the iPhone 11 can only do a digital zoom, right? So this is actually zooming, has a zoom lens in it. So it really comes down to which lens you prefer. I'm going to show you guys in the side-by-sides like the difference between what an ultra-wide shot would look like versus a 2x zooming shot, so you guys can sort of make your mind up on which one you want. But to me, let me know what you guys think of the image quality. I thought they were pretty close, pretty spot on with each other. So the XS also does the 4K 24, 30, 60, and then this one only does 1080p on the front with the 7 megapixel selfie. So the iPhone 11 does do higher video recording as far as the front of the camera goes. So I'll go ahead and show you guys the side-by-side stills and the video. 11 ultra wide. XS. Two X. So the battery life situation is kind of tricky with older phones, but let's just say you got both these phones at 100% battery life. Both of these phones are actually at 87% battery health, I believe. So it's pretty interesting. The iPhone 11 does have the bigger battery. It does get slightly better battery life, but it's not that much better than the 10s. Both of these phones I can squeeze out around 6 hours of screen on time if I'm not doing really any gaming and stuff like that. So the 11 has a 3110 milliamp battery, 18-watt charging, the wireless charging as well. The 10s has a 2658 milliamp battery with 15-watt charging. Charges slightly slow, but it's barely noticeable. Not slow, but slower. And then you also have wireless charging. Yeah, the iPhone 11 is going to get slightly better battery life, but it's not a dramatic difference. So I do want to really emphasize that. It's not a huge difference, but yes, it does get better battery life. So that is pretty much it. I think this comes down to display, cameras, and I think the battery life is kind of a tie. And also the size of the phone. Do you want a smaller phone or bigger phone? So what do you guys think? Which phone would you guys go with? And I'll catch you guys in the next one.